It is time for the Week 14 Million Dollar Maker. We're going to go through everything from quarterback stacks, running backs. Who is the play this week for the Million Dollar Maker of DraftKings, DFS plays, and more. Welcome to the Big Z Breakdown. Mike Zanetti here as we will recap last week for you. Last week, very bad lineup on my part. Cam Ward did not do anything against the Jaguars. However, maybe it's a Daniel Jones this week considering they're playing the Jags. I don't know. Cam Ward was playing really well football-wise and 141 yards passing. Titans offense couldn't get anything going. Had Devon Achane, but none of the guys of which who scored the points that were scored. 200 points for the million. Definitely a little bit of a lackluster lineup to say in terms of what kind of week it was. I mean, he had two tight ends for crying out loud. Brissett, 23. Kamani Vidal, 23. Bijan Robinson, 33. Nico Collins, 21. Tet McMillan. I mean, it was just a weird week. Seattle defense, 30 points, by the way, all the way down here at the bottom. What I will say is what we did hit on in terms of what did we do well, actually. If you head over to our TikTok, we actually hit a 6-for-6 parlay. So that was one that actually did pretty well. It won around $2,000 on a $25 bet. Again, was really shocked. Didn't expect it to happen. So that was the one positive of the weekend. As far as DFS, absolute catastrophe. I mean, now how do you kind of guess what to do after last week? And that's kind of where we're going to go with a new lineup. And this is the thing. We're going to go through quarterbacks. I'll go ahead. If you guys want to follow along, go ahead and look at the matches for week 14. I'm just going to run through them and be like talking out loud. What do you guys think about these quarterbacks? We'll start with Colts, Jaguars. Another weird game. Actually, you know what? Let's go and order the games at top here. So, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Aaron Rodgers got the broken wrist. Maybe Lamar Jackson, the Zay Flowers. I'm not personally feeling anything warm and fuzzy. Seattle against Atlanta. Pretty good pass defense. Again, I'm not liking it. Kirk Cousins, maybe a cheeky, cheap option, considering the Seattle defense hasn't done anything crazy. Again, I'm not liking it. Tennessee, Cleveland, Shador, Cam Ward. I mean, we've seen crazier things, but I'm personally staying away from that game. Jacksonville, Indy. I like Trevor Lawrence to Jacoby Myers. The Colts play a lot of man-to-man coverage. There is no Sauce Gardner. That's interesting. No Eric. Pretty sure there's no DeForest Buckner is the guy up front. So it's just a matter of what do you like for quarterback stacks. And as far as the ones that I have written down, it is a pretty interesting week. You got Tyler Shuck against the bad Buccaneers defense. Again, just a thought. Baker Mayfield playing the Saints. I don't like it. I crossed him out. Jacoby Brissett playing the Rams. Tough matchup there. You still have to name him, but Geno Smith. Maybe it's Mariota against the Minnesota defense, but they have a good pass defense. I don't hate J.J. McCarthy. As stupid as that sounds, I don't hate J.J. McCarthy. It's going to sound dumb. Yes, I know 9 is not a great quarterback, but they're playing Washington. Washington has the third lowest passing yards in the NFL, averaging over 250 yards a game. And I know J.J. McCarthy has not been good. I know that. But if there's one thing the Commanders aren't good at, it's defense. So I would honestly trust again, we'll throw something out there, but J.J. McCarthy is cheap, $4,700. That was my thought process with Cam Ward, but he just couldn't get the job done. Rome Odunze, out. Marvin Harrison, out. Evans not back from IR. So, again, Odunze out against the Packers does look to maybe go DJ Moore, but Packers defense is interesting. What I was looking at was Mr. Justin Jefferson, if I could find him. Drake London out again. Another thought, in terms of quarterback stacks, you got Josh Allen, maybe due for a bounce-back week. He's playing the Bengals. Could go with a Bengals stack, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. Again, I'm just throwing a lot of names out there, but, try and follow me here. You got Tua. You got Sam Darnold, like I mentioned, Daniel Jones. Maybe it's Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid. But I've kind of narrowed it down to about 4 to 5 stacks that I personally think are going to do well. 3 of which that I'm confident in, 2 of which are kind of throwaways, right? If we're looking head-to-head matchups or trying to get value out of certain things, let's kind of talk about confidence. Trevor Lawrence to Jacoby Myers. One I'm really confident in. I think Jacoby's due for a good 15 points. Very good sleeper. If you look at Myers' salary, he's definitely going to be a lot lower at $5,700, pretty much around the Keenan Allen range of what we had last week. But I like that stack as well. There's going to be a lot of duplicate wide receivers. It's just a matter of what stack do you want to plug them with. And another stack, this one could be a little sneaky as well. Mr. John Mechie going up against the Miami Dolphins. I don't hate Tyrod Taylor against Miami. I know the Jets love to run the football, but I could see a world where Tyrod can put together around 17, 18 fantasy points. I mean, he ran for 40 yards and a touchdown last week. This is a division game at home. I don't know why. I feel like the Jets, with a veteran quarterback, John Mechie gets most of his targets in the slot, and you're probably questioning, okay, why John Mechie of all receivers? Adonai Mitchell had 12 targets last week. Yes. The past 3 weeks, the Jets have kind of went up against interesting matchups, especially the Dolphins allowing Devon Vele, the kind of slot guy. I mean, he's kind of the outside receiver. Mechie goes a little bit in the slot. I know slot for the Saints is kind of Olave area. But Vele did line up in the slot a few times, and I feel like on the outside, maybe it's Mitchell, but it could also be John Mechie. But the last 3 weeks, Vlad McConkey went for 100 yards against this Dolphins defense. You had Deebo Samuel for 74 yards. So you've seen the teams give up a lot of yards. Last week we did go with Jalen Waddle, and I was thinking maybe I'm a week late on Waddle. And my first thought was literally, okay, Tua to Waddle. But then I looked at Tua, and he is not playing good football. The Jets have actually had a decent pass defense all season long. So the Jets have been a top 10 pass defense. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty interesting. So as far as the other quarterback stacks, like I mentioned, J.J. McCarthy's a sneaky one. But the last two, I mentioned Burrow to Chase and maybe even T. But this one's also pretty safe, but it's also expensive. Matthew Stafford to then Puka Nacua. It's you probably do Puka instead of Jefferson, but Puka's also 8,700, and Puka has had a long time before he's had a pretty big performance, so that's kind of why I was looking at Puka, if you will. But yeah, it's been an interesting kind of just trying to depict, okay, what are we looking at? As far as tight end, I think you need Tyler Warren in there. Depending on if Dalton Kincaid plays against against Cincinnati, they're the worst defense against tight end. I don't even hate maybe a Dalton Kincaid doesn't play. You got Mr. Dawson Knox down here for 2,800. That's definitely a cheap option, but I feel like the Jaguars have been terrible against tight ends, especially against Brock Bowers. I have the numbers right here, but McBride, they lit up 9 catches, 79 yards. Schultz, 7 for 53 and a touchdown. Kelsey, 7 for 61 and a touchdown. They've had a lot of craziness. Last week against the Titans, the two tight ends combined, 9 catches, 50 yards, and Gunnar Helm and Chigakonkwo. So that's what we're looking at. I feel like you cannot go with a heavy, expensive quarterback. If we look at last week, it was Jacoby Brissett for 5,800. I tried to be sneaky with Cam Ward. You have to figure out what is the cheap option, and maybe it's a Stafford bounce-back game, but the only way you can go with an expensive quarterback is if you're going to have a guy like Josh Allen get you 30, 35 points. I personally am not trusting that. Okay, and we'll just go through the list. But Josh Allen has a good matchup against Cincy. Again, 7,700. Burrow against Buffalo. Second best pass defense against quarterbacks, 6,500. We're just going down the list here. Knicks, division rival. I will say, 7 division matchups for Week 14. Crazy. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence, cheap option at 5,400. I think Trevor Lawrence is my most confident play at quarterback. And that's the thing. Is like, out of the 3 guys that are cheap but you're confident in, Trevor Lawrence, J.J. McCarthy, I know it sounds crazy, and it's Tyrod Taylor. I wouldn't hate Mariota, but I feel like the Vikings defense is going to kind of jump all over him. As far as the running backs, let's take a look. Last week, it was Kamani Vidal and Bijan Robinson, 33, 20, 23, pretty good points. Adonai Mitchell, 27. You got to find the crazy value plays, and that's the thing. Adonai Mitchell, I'm sure nobody owned him. I did mention him in my starts and sits video, crazy enough. But who is going to be the guy for this week? As far as matchups, yes, the Jets just gave up a lot of yards to Bijan. I feel like, second game against the Dolphins, they might learn against past mistakes. Their first thing that they're going to want to do is stop Devon Achane. So looking for value, I really like Josh Jacobs for 6,800 against the Chicago Bears. If that game is what it's supposed to be on paper, and the Bears defense is not great, no Roma Dunze, if the Bears can't run the football like they did against the Eagles, and the Packers are good on defense, this is going to be a run fest with Josh Jacobs. I mean, they kind of had a mini bye to prepare for this game. Chicago has, again, you look at Just look at Jacobs' his number right here. 15th I guess they give it up not a lot. I thought the Bears defense, not the best run defense, but again, they haven't had the most fantasy points to running backs. That'd be more like Buffalo's alley or Cincinnati. But I still like Josh Jacobs. The other two kind of sleepers I had for running back, Bucky Irving, second week off injury, only played 50% of snaps last week. New Orleans, if they're able to dominate New Orleans, it was kind of a close game week 1. They didn't have the best game against Arizona. If it's a close game, they're going to throw it, I feel like. But Bucky Irving has to get, again, he had 19 carries with 50% of snaps. If he's going to play closer to 60 or 70% of snaps this time, it's going to be interesting. So I like Mr. Bucky. If you want a cheap option at running back that I don't really mind at all, I don't hate the fact that you're looking at, Devin Neal. Trey Benson still not coming back. I think they're going to shut him down for the season. Devin Neal, 5,100. But the guy I'm looking for, I'm surprised he's not really showing up quite yet, and that is Mr. Samaje Perine. I still haven't seen him. Okay, 4,200. Samaje Perine. I don't even hate taking Bucky out because he is very expensive. Jacobs at 6,800. Let me just move myself out of the way so you guys can see kind of what I'm looking at. But as far as the running backs, it gets slim. The reason I'm going to think about Samaje Perine here is because the Bills, again, bottom 5 rush defense in the NFL. Perine, if we go ahead and look at his snaps last week, he had a good 50% of snaps. He is taking Chase Brown's workload. I mean, let's just take a Google search here. The Bengals offense. Perine had the carries last week. He did fumble, which makes me think, are they going to take him out of the game? But looking at the Bengals game, Chase Brown, 15 carries. Who's right behind him? Samaje Perine with 14. That's scary. Perine did not have as much receiving work that I was expecting. 2 catches, 15 yards. Chase Brown, 7 for 35. But they're pretty much on an even split this year. If we go ahead and take a look at the NFL snap usage, shout out to www.footballguys.com, but it's footballguys.com. I mean, it's perfect. Let's take a look at the Cincinnati Bengals. This is just such an interesting thing here. Perine, 40% of snaps. Samaje, 40, 60. That is a bad split, especially for Perine's first week back off injury. I mean, he was taking more and more usage as he was getting, into the lineup. And now, gets hurt a couple games. Chase Brown, 82, 89% of snaps. And Samaje's out there for 33 snaps. So, again, a cheap option, definitely a little bit of a shot in the dark, but it does help you fluctuate a lot of salary here. You could probably fit Justin Jefferson and a defense and here's the thing. I like Justin Jefferson because of the matchup. Washington's secondary is not a good defense. So, again, I don't hate this lineup at all when we're looking at the fact that this is a team, if we're looking at the right side over here, this is a team that I feel confident in to win me this week. So, as far as a defense, Jacksonville against Indy, Pittsburgh against Baltimore, oh my gosh, these defenses are awful. Jets against the Dolphins, I don't hate that. Bears against Packers, no thank you. I hate all of these defenses. So now to think about it, the Seahawks, again, you need a defense to score 30 points if you're going to have his defense like Seattle to do that to a team like the Raiders. I don't hate Denver, but again, I don't have the money for that, and I would probably have to down Jefferson or maybe Perine, but I guess we'll just do this here and try and get our flex player at a decent value. I don't hate RJ Harvey. He shouldn't have 2 touchdowns like he did last week. But again, no J.K. Dobbins the rest of the season. They're playing Vegas, who is not terrible against the run, but you also have to mention Marvin Harrison is out. You could go right back to Michael Wilson. I don't hate Cortland Sutton this week, 27th. Again, the Raiders are not good against the pass. I want to take a shot with Michael Wilson here. However, what do the Rams love to do defensively? They like to double team. I mean, Emeka Ibuka, you look at the number 1 targets for all those teams. I don't know if they do it to wide receivers or if they're going to do it to Trey McBride. Is Michael Wilson going to be the guy? I would pick between these 2 players right here, Sutton and Wilson. And with 200 left, do you try and up Perine? I mean, maybe. The problem is, you could down Puka here to maybe Jamar Chase if you trust Chase against Buffalo. But again, Buffalo does not allow a lot of receiving yards. Like I said, Jefferson is kind of a optimal play if you wanted to go Jefferson, maybe a J.J. McCarthy. I know it's risky, but the amount of salary that you can get to up Perine to maybe that player in Bucky Irving. I mean, there's just so much you can do here. Maybe you take McCarthy out. Is Tyrod cheaper than McCarthy? No, he's about $200 more expensive. But even Tyler Shuck, I mean, if you go Chris Olave, the Buccaneers 31st against the pass. But it's like, we've seen crazier lineups. We've seen crazier outcomes, and that's why you have to get sneaky with the contrarian plays like a Donnie Mitchell last week. The quarterbacks, yes, you need somebody to get 20 a week for you to win. And can you get 20 out of Kirk? Can you get 20 out of Shador? Can you get 20 out of Gino? Probably not. But that's the question you got to ask yourself, and I like the matchup here for McCarthy. I don't even hate the matchup here for Shuck. But, again, do you match up? Chris Olave is questionable for the game. There's a lot you can do here. I am big time on these two sleepers right here. We'll go ahead and zoom this one in. Jacoby Myers, and I don't hate Justin Jefferson. I would still, we can always knock him if we have to, but just trying to fill in this last spot of this lineup, it's definitely tough. Waddle's not a bad option. Ibuka, I mean, the Bucs offense besides the pass game's been bad. The run game's been pretty good. Another guy I was thinking about, Zay Flowers. I know there's a lot of names, and you kind of just have to feel good about some of them, but it's just like I can't put a competent lineup together. It's been so difficult for me to do this in the past few weeks, but I kind of have my 4 quarterbacks I'm going with if I can get them for price. Trevor Lawrence is number 1. I like McCarthy. I like Tyrod. If you want to go more expensive to be safe, Stafford and Burrow, like I said, cheap running back that you could get is Samaje Perine with a sneaky upside. Again, $4,500 for a running back. That is very sneaky. And then you can go with another hefty wide receiver, and that's what I'm really confident Perine could easily get 10 points, and that's all you need out of a 4,200 guy. Even John Mechie is going to catch 5-6 passes. He had 8 targets last week, and the Dolphins, again, not the greatest against the slot. Mechie kind of being the number 2 to Donnie Mitchell. It's just been really interesting here. Maybe you can fit a Chase, and then you could up Sutton. I mean, there's just so much you can do here with a cheaper running back, and then boom, there's your lineup. I know you're taking a shot in the dark on McCarthy. You're taking a shot in the dark on Perine, but you do get Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson in your lineup, and that is pretty big. You get Tyler Warren in there too. I have not taken Warren out because that is the guy I am very confident in. As far as the other running backs, Josh Jacobs, I mean, maybe James Cook has a day against Cincinnati. I feel like because of the mini bye, because they played on Thanksgiving, they're going to be ready for James Cook. Definitely not a bad idea, though. Jonathan Taylor gets the 4th ranked Jaguars run defense, a very good run defense. Henry against Pittsburgh, I don't think he's going to have a great game. Bucky Irving, I know the matchup doesn't seem optimal, but again, they're playing the Saints. They're probably going to be up in the game. They don't want Baker to, do anything crazy, so they're probably just going to hand it off. Etienne, a tough matchup. Genti, a tough matchup. Again, none of these running backs are speaking to me. Kamara, out. Harvey's a good one. I don't hate Kenneth Walker, but again, Atlanta, Seattle's got 2 running backs there. Could be Charbonnet. Again, the guys I'm confident in, Josh Jacobs is a definite guy to get at least 1 touchdown. I think he's probably going to have like 25 points this week, probably about 100 on the ground and 2 rushing touchdowns, and that's kind of all you need out of a player like him, especially when there's no Q next to his name this week. He's had, again, this is a Packers team coming off a Thanksgiving win against the Detroit, so it's like, there's a lot that you could do this week. Don't get me wrong. But again, for a quarterback, I just love the cheap option. JJ McCarthy's good for a good 15-point week, and the reason I say that is he should be at least fired up after getting benched last week. He gets a bad Washington defense. He's played terrible his last 2 starts. 87 yards, 2 interceptions, 150 yards against Chicago, a touchdown, 2 picks. The picks are going to be there, but again, this is probably the worst defense he has seen all year. Baltimore's tough. Detroit, I know their secondary hasn't been great, but they're tough. I think he's good for 2 passing touchdowns, should get you around 15. And I think I'm okay with that for a quarterback that cost me $4,700. I mean, some people might think I'm crazy, but I think this is the lineup I'm going to roll with. Again, you can, if you're questionable on Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, I feel like Chase is definitely a risky one considering Buffalo doesn't give up a lot of passing yards and T. Higgins is back. But again, that's kind of where you have to make your own decision. I'm kind of just laying it all out there for you, my thoughts, and then the players that I, maybe take a little bit of. Like I said, Sutton was a decent one. I had a decent combination here with taking P. Ryan out and putting Bucky in, and just kind of playing around with the salary in terms of how can I fit everyone. Taking Zay out, pretty sure it's, Sutton. And then downing Jefferson because, do you really trust Justin Jefferson if you're going with J.J. McCarthy? You could down Jefferson to maybe a Zay Flowers and then try and see if you can get Trevor Lawrence on that salary. You can. So that is not a bad lineup either. I think Zay Flowers is due for a good game against a Pittsburgh team that plays a lot of man-to-man. Maybe Lamar takes a shot. And the reason I like Zay is because he's due as well. You'll take a look at his game log. 1.6 last week. A lot of people are going to fade him, and a lot of people might bench him considering they need to get into the playoffs. 2 catches, 6 yards. So that's what I got for you. DFS week 14. I'm big on Trevor Lawrence, big on J.J. McCarthy, Tyrod Taylor. Again, none of these quarterbacks are speaking to me, but if we're kind of playing it by ear in terms of looking at how the big lineup won last week, in terms of how this lineup worked out, Brissett, middle of the pack quarterback, Vidal, maybe you can get that out of P. Ryan. Is it too expensive running backs? You had Nico get 21 with a rushing touchdown. McMillan only 11, but there weren't many other guys to pick from. Mitchell 27, Schultz 12, Bowers 22. The Seattle defense that didn't allow any points. So again, it does take a little bit of luck induced, but there is a little bit of strategy behind it. And I do think I have my main guys in Myers, Mechie, Warren, and Jacobs. I like Myers and Mechie because they are cheap and you can just build around them. And I think those are 2 guys that are going to get you 10 to 15. So enough rambling. I think I tried to give it to you the best information possible. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments. Let me know. This has been a little bit different. I know I kind of been rambling on. Hopefully it was easy to follow, but hit that sub button if you're new. It's been Mike Zanetti, Big Z Breakdown. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.